Let me go back to this one subject that I've been very interested in for a long time, and that is, in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis 1:1 says, in the King James Bible, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But that's not what it says in the old ancient Hebrew or Phoenician language. That's not what it says in the original language. That's how it was translated from the English, in the King's English. Well, the King's English, the King James Version, was translated by the best translators that the king had at the time. And it was very well done. However, they know more about the language today than what they did then. And so there's a lot of imperfections in the King James Bible that could be misleading unless you understand what the words actually meant in the ancient world.
Oh wow, you're going to want to stay tuned for this one. What Jordan Maxwell is about to reveal might just change everything you think you know about the Bible. Imagine unlocking a secret that's been hiding in plain sight for centuries, waiting to be discovered. Maxwell delves deep into ancient texts, uncovering layers of meaning that go far beyond what most of us have ever been taught. This isn't just a history lesson, it's a revelation that could flip your understanding of one of the world's most influential books upside down. It's like piecing together a cosmic puzzle where every symbol, every word, and every hidden message starts to connect in ways that make you question everything. Maxwell takes us on a journey through ancient languages and forgotten symbols, revealing a story that is far more complex and intriguing than what we've been led to believe. It's not just about faith or religion, it's about uncovering the hidden truths that shape our world and how we understand it. We're often so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we miss these deeper layers of reality. But what Maxwell reveals here is like a wake-up call, an invitation to look beyond the surface and explore the mysteries that have been there all along. It's as if the universe itself is urging us to dig a little deeper, to ask the questions that matter, and to seek out the answers that have been buried in the sands of time. So if you're curious and ready to see the Bible and our world in a completely new light, stick around. What Jordan Maxwell is about to share will take you on a journey you definitely won't want to miss.
When you read in the beginning, this is Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's not what it says in Hebrew. It says, in the beginning of the creation, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Elohim is not the word God. El is a Phoenician, Canaanite name or word for deity, El. Elohim is like adding an S onto an English word. You have C-A-R for car, or C-A-R-S, cars, more than one. So adding an S on the end, to the end of most English words means it's plural, in the plural. Well, that's exactly what Elohim means. El is God, Elohim is plural. So the correct understanding should be read, the Hebrew read, in the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth, not God. More interesting than that, this is why, incidentally, in Genesis 1:28, when God is creating Adam and Eve, the first couple, and it says, God said, "Come, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness." Who's us and our? Was God talking to himself? Come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Later on in Genesis, I think it's 3, the scripture says, God said, here man has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. The point is, who is God talking about? Us. Here is man made in our image after looking like us. Here, now he's like us. Who's us? Who's our? Well, it's Elohim, the gods. So consequently, what we're talking about here is that the gods created us, created the heavens and the earth and all things on it. But interesting, in Genesis 1:2, says, and the earth was without form and void. That's another mistranslation. And the original It does not say that the earth was without form and void. Actually, it says, and the earth became a waste and a desolation. Not form and void, but waste and desolation. And it was not, as I said, the scripture, if you read it today in the Bible, Genesis 1:2, says, and the earth was without form and void. No. The earth became a waste and a desolation. Consequently, if you go to Genesis 9, which is Genesis 9:1, where God is talking to Noah after the flood of Noah's day, and God says to Noah, now understanding that according to the story, everyone has been wiped off the earth in the great flood, and so God says to Noah and his sons, his 3 sons, go forth into the world now and multiply and replenish the earth. And you ask the question, wait a minute, the word is R-E, replenish the earth, meaning, not plenish, replenish, meaning do it again. Why? Well, simply because before Noah, there was a whole civilization. God brings a flood, according to the story. God brings a flood, destroys the world and all life on it. And now God is saying to Noah and his sons and their wives, go now on the earth and reproduce and fill the earth and replenish the earth. Well, that is a correct translation from the Hebrew, and I've talked to rabbis about that. And the word is replenish. R-E means do it again. Okay, it makes sense that God would be telling Noah to redo it again. However, if you go back to Genesis 1:28, where God is creating, the first chapter of the Bible, where God is creating man and woman, Adam and Eve, he says to Adam and Eve, multiply and replenish the earth. Do it again, replenish the earth. Implying, of course, do it again. What are you talking about doing again? Well, if you just read Genesis 1:2 correctly, it said, and the earth was without form and void. No, the earth became a waste and a desolation. So the rabbis will tell you, and the rabbinical reference works will tell you, that what is being said in Genesis 1:2 and in 1:28, when man and woman are being created, is that God is recreating all over again. And so consequently, the Bible, the Old Testament, is a story for this dispensation. This time, the world is being recreated. Now, what happened a million years ago, 10,000 or 100,000 years ago, that's none of your business. For you right now, this is what you need to understand. And the bottom line is that we are not the first creatures on the earth, the first time man's been on the earth. We now know that man has been on the earth probably millions and millions of years, and that for us to think that mankind was created 6,000, 7,000, 10,000 years ago is ludicrous, because we know better than that. And so consequently, that's what the Bible is saying. God is saying, replenish the earth to Adam and Eve. Do it again. Who is God? Well, the scripture says, and this is a very difficult word to deal with, God, G-O-D, because that's a lot of baggage. What are you talking about when you talk about God? Well, God is dog spelled backwards, as I said. This is why churches have dogma in their teachings, because it goes back to Anubis the dog star, Anubis the dog, the god of and the ancient Egyptian religion. But when you look at the word, and now I get back to what I was going to say to start with, that in Genesis 1:2, where it incorrectly says, and the earth was without form and void, no, the earth became a waste and a desolation. The two Hebrew words that are being translated there is tohu and vohu. Pronunciation, it would be T-O-E-W-H-O, tohu. That's not the way it's spelled in Hebrew, but that's the way it's pronounced. T-O-E-W-H-O, tohu. Vohu would be V-O-E-W-H-O, tohu, vohu, waste, desolation. There's only two places in the Bible where Tohu-bohu is used, and those two places, they're always used together. And there's only two places to start with. One is in Jeremiah, and one is in Genesis 1:2. And in the scripture in Jeremiah, Jeremiah says, I saw the earth in a vision, and the earth was tohu-bohu, meaning the earth became, and my eyes, I saw the earth, and it became a waste and a desolation. Well, when did that happen? Well, according to the Jeremiah prophecy, it happened many, many, many thousands of years before. And the prophet Isaiah said God gave him a vision. And in the vision he saw the earth and tohu-bohu, which is the earth became in his eyes. It was beautiful. And the scripture says that. Jeremiah says, and the earth was beautiful. Its animals, its birds, its civilizations were absolutely beautiful to see. And then tohu-bohu, it became a waste and a desolation, meaning that the earth probably was a very beautiful place thousands and thousands of years ago, maybe 100,000 years ago. And Jeremiah was given the opportunity to see the way the earth was 30, 40, 50,000 years ago, with animals and a whole different beautiful world. And then something happened, some kind of a major catastrophe, tohu-bohu. It became a waste and a desolation. Now, when you go back to Genesis 1:2, tohu-bohu is always understood to be a situation that the earth goes through when it changes from what the ancients called one dispensation to another dispensation, or one period of time in God's history, not our history, but in the history of the universal God force, the way it keeps time. And of course, it's, one day is 1,000 years. Well, that's probably more than that. Theoretically, using the term God, how does God keep time? Well, my Lord, God's forever, forever. So, how long would that be? So in the universal God force concept of time, millions of years are nothing. So consequently, what is being said there is that tohu-bohu implies a total destruction on a cosmic level between dispensations of creation between God. Between the time that God created the earth and all these wonderful things were on it, say 100,000 years ago, and then when something happened, a comet hit the earth is one of the ideas that's going around now. A major comet the size of New York hit in south of Mexico and caused the dust to fly all over the earth, and everything died because it blocked out the sun. I don't know, but something happened, because we know that animals, even in the North Pole, the South Pole, they have found animals that are frozen solid with green vegetation still in their mouth. Consequently, something happened many, many, many thousands of years ago, which is translated tohu-bohu. Some terrible catastrophe happened on the earth in which the gods were angry, and the whole thing was just leveled. Well, maybe it wasn't the gods who did it, but the point being is that the Bible is saying that the gods, Elohim, became angry at the creation, and Jeremiah was allowed to see tohu-bohu, a total destruction all over the earth, a major catastrophe. And that is precisely, as I said, the words and the concept is used for the dispensation of one creative period going to another creative period. So when everything is collapsed and destroyed, now theoretically, according to the Bible, God says, come, let us do it again. All right, let's start all over again, and let's create a man and a woman. And Rabbi Marvin S. Antelman, some 35 years ago, Marvin Antelman, A-N-T-E-L-M-A-N-N, of Newton, Massachusetts, was 35 years ago president of the American Rabbinical Association. And he and I were very close friends for many years. I used to chide him all the time about his understanding of the Bible. But Rabbi Entelman, president of the American Rabbinical Association, said to me, I asked him about that scripture where God said, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. And I said to Rabbi, what are you talking about? Come, let us. Who's us? Did God got to get permission from somebody here that's working with him or what? And he says, no, it's a misunderstanding on how the sentence is understood by Gentiles and Jews. Jews also misunderstand. They don't know any more than the Gentiles do. There is a correct way to read that sentence. The normal way people think that the scripture is saying when it says, God said, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Most people think that that's God is saying, come, let us create a creature. Let us make a new creation, a creature. Maybe we'll call him man. So come, let us make a creature, and we will call him man and woman. Man with a womb, man. And that's what most people understand that scripture to mean. That's not what it says at all. Rabbi Entelman says, nowhere in the Bible does it say God created man. It doesn't say that. Go back and read it correctly. What is said is that God said, or Elohim, the gods said, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. The correct way to understand that is the gods were saying, come, let us make man in our image after our likeness. Not make man. Man's already here. Come, let us remake man. Do it again. Let us make man according to our image and our likeness. And so the ancient Jews and the Hebrews and all the ancient civilizations, starting all the way back to Samaria, understood what was being said. It's just that we don't understand because all we get is our news from ABC. We wouldn't know anything about what's going on. But if you go back to the ancient works, you will find that the ancient people, the Sumerians, Babylonians, Phoenician Canaanites, Egyptians, the ancient Greeks and Romans, all of them understood that we are the creation of another entities. We are the creation of the gods. And according to Zecharia Sitchin, and he's not the only one, he's just one that I know personally, but according to the work of Zecharia Sitchin, the Sumerians are saying that extraterrestrials came here from a planet called Nibiru. And Nibiru is, according to the Sumerians, they said that Nibiru is a planet about twice the size of the Earth, and it is part of our solar system, but it has a huge elliptical orbit. It's not a round orbit, it's elliptical orbit, oblong. And consequently, according to the Sumerians, and now we're beginning to scientifically find out that he was right. The Sumerians are right. The U.S. Navy has even commented on now that there seems to be more than one other planet connected to our solar system with elliptical orbits. Well, that's what the Sumerians were saying. And consequently, this elliptical orbit is every 3,600 years, it comes back into our vicinity and passes through our solar system, then goes back out again. And according to the way the solar system turns in the galaxy, and this thing comes back every 3,600 years, comes back and then goes back out. And consequently, every 3,600 years, mankind seems to make massive movements on the earth. New things, new technology. All of a sudden, things just start happening. Why? I believe that there's at least enough evidence to show that there might be something to this story, that the Sumerians and the Egyptians and all these great civilizations, not us, we have no idea what's going on right here in our own city, but the ancient peoples knew and said that the gods told them that every 3,600 years they come back through, and when they come back through, why travel a long distance when they could just wait? The planet's going to be in the close vicinity, and when it is, it'll be here for a few months. So they will drop off and see how everything is and give you some new concepts and new ideas, depending on how smart you are. If you're still as dumb as last time they were here, why bother? But if you've progressed a little bit, they will give you a little bit more to work on. Then they get on the planet and leave, and another 3,600 years goes by, and mankind progresses again. So all of this makes some kind of a legitimate sense if you are able to look at science, philosophy, religion, biblical history, and be able to balance it all out. There is a modicum of truth in all of this, because scientifically things are being proven now that the Sumerians were saying many thousands of years ago. So the point being is that God said, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Interesting. In relation to that, and again, I go back and reiterate that Rabbi Entelman said the correct way to say that, or to read that scripture, is that the gods said, "Come, let us make man in our image." Not make man, but let's make him in our image, after our likeness. That's interesting. You mean we were already here, but for being so great, we weren't that great? Yeah, we were hominids. We were Neanderthal man. We were Cro-Magnon man. We were whatever these creatures were that we're digging up all over the world. In the south of France, we're finding Neanderthal who stand upright, Homo sapien, but they were just a little different from us. But they had certain qualities that showed that they had some intelligence about how to do things. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, from the Neanderthal period, we pop in. Our skin and flesh is different than what the Neanderthals would have been. Our skin is thinner. We can't take the cold like animals do at 2 o'clock in the morning on the desert when it's 20 below zero. Animals are out there. They live through it. We couldn't. Why? It's because our bodies are designed differently. Our skin is thinner. Our systems are more balanced and vulnerable. However, our spirituality and our intellect is far higher. We can appreciate geometry, sciences, occultism, beautiful music, lasers. I mean, our intellectual and spiritual capacity is phenomenal. But our bodies are very vulnerable. So what happened in our natural evolution of things when one time you have the Neanderthals, or whatever these hominid creatures, and that's a word that science uses, hominids, these creatures, and all of a sudden we appear. Well, it makes sense to me that perhaps there is something to what the Sumerians said, that the gods who came through on Nibiru, or whatever the planet was, or whatever the story is, the bottom line is that the gods said, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness," meaning they must have cross-breeded their DNA with our DNA. Whichever the normal hominid creatures that were here, take one of the females, impregnate the female with the genetics of the gods, and the outcome would have been us. We are still animalistic, at best. We're still going around killing people and shooting people, and anybody that doesn't look like us or happen to be our color, we hate them and we shoot them. Why? It's because we are actually a Neanderthal, ancient hominid creature. And we have appetites for violence and excitement and killing and all that kind of thing. However, we also, as among us, those who are profoundly brilliant and spiritually in tune, who give us the great composers, the great poets, the greatness that mankind is capable of. So you have the balance, the animalistic, human, plus the divinely inspired